Hi everybody, welcome to Helly's Abstract Art. It's been a long time since I've posted some work, but things have been busy and you know how it is, but I'm going to show you how I do my fantasy forest in the alcohol ink work. I've got my Yupo paper here. You can buy this online on eBay, really easy to get hold of. I'm just going to lay down some alcohol, pop down some colours, because all I want to do at the moment is get my background colours, so we'll get on with this. Sorry about the noise of the hairdryer, but it's the best thing I can use to blow the colours around. Right, let's get started. So just laying this down wherever it wants to go. I'm going to use, this is clover, because obviously doing a forest I'd like a green tone in the background. A little bit of blue along the bottom and a little bit of raspberry just to add a bit of colour, because obviously at the end of the day it's a fantasy forest. And now we're just going to blow the colours around. Start off with it on slow, but normally after a bit of movement with the colours I'll ramp up the hairdryer and make it go a bit sort of faster. So as you can see, that's what the colours have done. Obviously I don't want all this white in there, so what I'm going to do now is be a little bit more specific with where my colours go. So what I do is I'll lay down some of the alcohol first and then add a couple of drops of the ink. Just let that work in for a minute and then move it. Just keep moving it around, and eventually the heat from the hairdryer starts to dry it up and you'll get less movement. It depends what sort of, effect you're looking for. I want my background quite muted really and quite soft, with not too many lines, because you want to see the lines of the trees. So that's how that green ended up. I think we'll do a bit more of a blue, which is the sailboat blue here. So alcohol down first, ink on, and then I might add a bit more alcohol to that because I don't want it too dark. And then start off slow, get it roughly where you want it to be, trying to cover up that white. And then ramp it up when you want to move it around. So as you can see, it's moved around, it's interacted with the raspberry, and you get quite a nice effect. This bit here is a bit too dark. I don't want anything too dark in the centre, and the same here. So what I'm going to do is just add alcohol this time, no more colour, and just pop that where you need it. Let it start working with the ink, and then start to move it again. Increase the airflow again. once it's all dry. So I still want to get some colour here and on this white spots here. So I think I'll just do the alcohol again. Like I said, I don't want to be adding too much colour because I want the trees to stand out. So it's better to move the colour that we've got on here at the moment. Let's see how it goes. You can always add ink at some point. So start off low. And I just love the way the colours move around, and it's quite a satisfying thing to do, watching it dry. I'm really liking how this is looking actually. So I'm just making sure that everything's as dry as it can be. And as you can see, it's looking quite pretty. I really like that. So now what we're going to do is paint in our trees. And what I use, I've got an ice cube tray. Because I work with my brush and the ink. We're going to use slate, I think, to put the trees in. So I'm just going to a couple of drops of slate into the egg thing. And then you've got to look at what colours you've got on your thing. I'm quite happy with how it is, so I'm going to do some smaller background trees first. And just start with a dry brush, add your ink, and then we're just going to roughly mark out and try and keep quite a thin line. If you don't want it to spread too far, just gently blow on it. So as you can see, you get your line of a tree, a couple of branches coming off. You can hear me blowing it just to make sure it doesn't spread too far. And you've got to do this with a fairly dry brush. You don't want too much ink on that brush because obviously it's going to react with the inks underneath and then it will spread way too far. So that's how the tree's looking so far. As you can see, it's quite subtle in the background. I may even add some raspberry to that slate and we'll see how that looks. Because obviously if they're background trees, you don't want them quite as bright as the front tree. So I'm just going to give that a bit of shadow. So to one side, it's going to have a slightly darker side to a tree, as you would. And you can work over the same bit. Just make sure that you've not got too much colour on your brush. Otherwise, like I said, it will spread. And as you can see, although it is moving slightly, it's not reacting too badly, so you can actually get the form of the tree. So I'm just going to continue doing those and build up what I've got in the background. I love trees, so they come quite naturally to me when I'm painting. And I think actually the shakier your hand is, the better it is, because you get a more natural looking tree. So as you can see, where I haven't blown that one's got slightly larger, so I'm just going to touch that up and blow it. And then it'll actually stop moving. Slightly thinner one there. You know, and trees have got no rhyme or reason to them. Different ones move different ways, so whatever way you want to put it is going to be right. So as you can see there, we've got 4 background trees. Go over to the other side. Same thing. And I'm trying to work with the form of how the alcohol inks have gone. So as you can see there, I've worked on a blue line there, a pink line here. And I'm going to try and do the same over here, working with what the alcohol inks have given me. So again, because these are background trees, they're going to be slightly thinner than, you know, if you're pulling them from the front. You imagine the branches going off in all different directions. Same again, I'm going to do another one that's quite close to that. Maybe we'll make this one a bit thicker. Just come forward a bit more. Like I say, if you find your inks a bit blowing out slightly and spreading out, just gentle puffs of air on them and it will help stop it from spreading too far. And you can use normal brushes for these, but I do tend to have sets of brushes just for the alcohol inks. And obviously any other work that I do, I have separate brushes for each. These are just cheap brushes from the local art store. Nothing fancy. So you can see how that's building up now. We'll do another one here, I think. Maybe have a double one coming out of there. So however you want it is however it should be. It's down to you at the end of the day. You could have one tree in the background, it wouldn't matter. Like I say, just make sure that your brush is fairly dry, and then you won't get too much spread across the rest of your work. So once I'm happy with sort of how many trees, I'm just going to add a bit more. My raspberry, and a touch of slate. Put another one over here, I think. You know, and don't forget that not all trees are straight, they're wavy. As the great Bob Ross said, you know, they're whatever you want them to be. Okay, so I'm quite happy with how that's looking at the moment. And what I'm going to do at this point is I'm just going to drop a few things off of the brush. I'm going to use the brush to flick some just alcohol. So I'm just dripping a bit on the end of my brush. I'm just going to shake it off, so because we don't want great big globs coming off. And then what I'm going to do, I'm just going to tap it on my finger because I just want a bit of what looks like fantasy foliage in the background. So we're just going to tap. And obviously as it touches those inks, you're going to get like little bubbles, what looks like little bubbles. You can even flick it. You know, if you hold it further away, you're going to get smaller ones. Closer in, you're going to get more of them. So this is just an impression of some foliage. It's, at the end of the day, it's a fantasy forest, so I'm quite happy with how that's looking. Again, if you don't want them to spread too much, a gentle blow on them, and that's how they look. You could also do it with one of the stamping things. I use a sponge sometimes, where you load your sponge with a bit of colour. I'm going to do some bushes using this method. So I've got my sponge, a little tiny bit of alcohol on it, and then I'm going to add, I think we'll add a bit of the clover, because I want to make what looks like faint bushes. So as you can see, I've just got that on there. We'll see how that goes. And I'm just going to tap in little bush type shapes at the base of my trees. And obviously you can reload if your colour starts fading. Some more over here. And it just gives that look of bushes in the background. So a little bit more alcohol, a little bit more colour. So if you don't want them to spread too far, just gentle blowing to stop it from spreading too much. And try and make it look random. I'm not, because but as you can see, you can start seeing almost like bush type shapes. So we're going to change the colour up. I think this time we'll have a bit of sailboat blue, a little bit of the, what's that one, watermelon. So you're going to get quite a decent purple colour. Little touch of the alcohol again. Not a lot, because we don't want it spreading too far, and this will be for my next layer of bushes. So as you can see, the colour's different. As you can see, it's a little bit too uniform at that time, so a little bit of alcohol, a little bit of the sailboat blue, some of the clover, and then we'll just touch again. As you can see, it touches and then starts to move the other colours around. So be quite random with your movements. Don't do it all the same shape. Okay, so I'm happy with that. So now we're going to build up more foreground trees. So this time I want it to be predominantly slate. So there's the mix that I've got in my thing. Obviously don't have too much on your brush. So now we're going to do some more foreground trees, which are obviously going to be that bit larger. So looking at where my bushes end, I'm going to start coming in with trees. We still don't want them to grow too big, so and I'm just blowing on the ink because I'm doing it. Because if you don't do it that way, you're going to end up with great big fat branches everywhere because they spread out so far. So I really love doing this method. You can build up in some really nice layers. So we're going to do a thicker tree here. So thicker at the bottom, thinner as you come up to the top. Just thicken up that base a little bit. I want that to be slightly larger. So, and if you do get a thicker tree, what's the worst going to happen? You wipe it all off with alcohol and start again. Just going to give this one a bit of a base to it, and same with this one. And because you can reactivate the alcohol inks, that's the perfect thing about this. If you don't like a bit, alcohol on it and spread it out a bit more if you like. Okay, so I'm happy with those. Slightly darker here. But as you can see, you could go on like this for ages. You could have as many layers as you wanted. But it just gives that sense of depth. And because it's a fantasy forest, you want, an abstract background. You could do stamps. You could use a stamp and put a fairy in there. Anything you want to. If you can't paint it, then get a stamp and stamp it on. But that's basically how I do my fantasy forests. So I really hope that's helped you. Give alcohol inks a go. They're fantastic. I'm totally obsessed with them now. Thanks to Artist Till Death. Erica's reignited my passion for them. So I really hope that this helps you. If you've got any questions, please message me. It's not a problem. I'm happy to help if I can. But I hope you all have a fantastic new year, and I'll see you again soon. Bye.